the director of the IMF made some interesting comments about a CBDC and how it may actually negatively impact the financial system. Are they actually looking out for our best interests, or is the IMF simply just protecting its moat? Welcome back, everyone. We are diving into an article out of Bitcoinist, and it has to do with the IMF. Now, seemingly, the IMF looked to be a supporter of a CBDC, but with the most recent comments from the director of the IMF, I think that they're starting to back down, or the IMF is starting to pivot in its messaging to ensure its relevance. Anyways, I'll let you guys decide. Let's dive into this article. IMF director warns of consequences of retail CBDCs on financial system. That's right. The words matter sometimes. Retail CBDCs. International Monetary Fund Director Kristalina Georgieva has raised concerns about the potential consequences of retail central bank digital currencies on the financial system. Retail digital versions of fiat currencies issued and backed by central banks, CBDCs, may threaten financial stability. Pay attention to the framing, okay? This is very important, the framing. Georgieva made this clear in an interview at the Milken Institute Global Conference. According to her, while retail CBDCs could offer many potential benefits, such as improving financial inclusion, they could also present significant risks without proper design and regulation. That's right, of course. It's all about maintaining that moat. It's all about ensuring that you, specifically the IMF, is seen as a center for stability, control, trust. The IMF director airs concerns regarding retail CBDCs. Introducing these currencies could cause bank disintermediation, negatively affecting monetary policy transmission. Georgieva further clarified the differences between wholesale and retail CBDCs, noting that retail CBDCs are primarily for businesses and consumers. On the other hand, wholesale CBDCs are designed to enable financial institutions to perform transactions with a central bank. However, both CBDC categories are issued by central banks. So what's the actual concern? If they're both issued by a central bank, they're both controlled by a central bank, what does it make a difference if it's a retail CBDC or a wholesale CBDC? So in my eyes, she's introducing this confusion on purpose, right? Because you see, by doing this, it makes it seem as though, number one, she knows what she's talking about, and number two, the IMF, they've got this under control. They're paying attention, and they know the difference. It's fucking nonsense. It doesn't matter whether it's a wholesale CBDC or a retail CBDC. This is all nonsense. Anyways, it's like making the difference, right? Between is that a wholesale BTC or is that a retail BTC? I'm pretty sure BTC is BTC. It doesn't make a difference. This is just nonsense. And the reason why the IMF thinks this stupidity makes sense is because they themselves issue a fake currency. See, the IMF thinks that this makes sense because they themselves practice financial alchemy. For the people that don't know, they create this quote-unquote currency that they essentially enslave nations with under the guise of help, called an SDR, which is a special drawing right. The SDR is an international reserve asset, no it's not, created by the IMF out of thin air to supplement the official reserves of its member countries. The SDR is not a currency, it's total hocus pocus. It is a potential claim on the freely usable currencies of IMF members. As such, SDRs can provide a country with liquidity. That's why they think this makes sense. That's why, like, for them, it's just like, well, there's a retail CBDC and there's a wholesale one. These things are different. I'm telling you, we are ruled by absolute fucking clowns. And what's really pathetic is that none of these people were voted in. Not that voting actually matters, because that's a whole other level of scam, but like, we just can't win. We really just can't win because, believe it or not, the absolute worst people are the ones that will try the hardest to get into positions to create this type of bullshit. Anyways, just my opinion. Obviously, there's varying opinions. I'm not necessarily right. That's just how I feel. Anyways, let's continue on with this shit show. Notably, the IMF director said there are more chances for error with the retail CBDCs than the wholesale ones. On that note, she suggested that wholesale CBDCs should substitute retail ones. So you create this fake thing, okay, that doesn't exist, retail and wholesale, and then you create the narrative that the wholesale one should win. I honestly, if this doesn't scream clown world to you, I don't know what does, but it's okay. I'm sure I will be given more opportunities to read through more ridiculous articles that will help prove that we're living in a clown world. The director urged central banks to be cautious when implementing CBDCs and to thoroughly assess their potential impacts on the financial system. But just wait till you see what happens when there is a problem with the CBDC, right? And they will have followed the rules that the IMF have put out, which are completely arbitrary and ridiculous because the IMF doesn't know any better. And then they're going to sit there and say, we didn't assess the potential impacts enough. Miscalculated, misjudged. There were unknown unknowns. Georgieva stated that the International Monetary Fund is presently looking at partnering with 50 nations. The essence of this move is to ensure that the countries are correctly practicing the adoption of CBDCs. That's right. What? So you just said that we need to be careful about CBDCs, but at the same time, the IMF is partnering with 50 nations. And of course, you'll be able to trust their CBDC implementation because they've done the research. Central bank digital currencies have gained increasing attention and momentum as more countries explore the potential benefits. As a result, there has been a growing trend toward adopting CBDC worldwide, with several countries already developing and implementing their digital currencies. The growth of a CBDC adoption signals a significant shift in the global financial system. However, adopting, and here we go, guys, the correct practices is necessary to bring this into reality. Okay, so look, guys, the IMF is not worried about CBDCs. They don't care. Okay, the IMF does not care about your livelihood, my livelihood, our livelihoods. They don't give a shit. Okay, what's extremely important is their realization, the realization that essentially they're going to be made irrelevant. You won't need them anymore. See, the whole premise, the whole premise is that these people are legitimately allowed to create financial tools because of whatever bullshit has been bestowed upon them. But the truth of the matter is that all of those financial tools are fake. It is monetary alchemy. It does not exist. It's just a bunch of people all agreeing that it exists. There's absolutely nothing tethering these assets, quote unquote assets, to the real world. Okay? Nothing at all. The IMF simply creates debt out of thin air and hands it over to countries which are then enslaved to the IMF. That's all there is to it. That really is the simplest thing. And of course, economists and the people who have been thoroughly brainwashed in this will come up with fantastical language that is going to make you think that what they're talking about is true and important. But at the end of the day, it's financial alchemy. It's money out of nothing. That's all it is. So look, guys, the takeaway for me anyways is the IMF obviously has realized that digital currency can make them completely and utterly irrelevant. Keep in mind, they are already irrelevant. Okay? They are already irrelevant. But this is a step further in that direction. Keep in mind, I am not a supporter of a CBDC. I think that is absolute trash. I do not believe that CBDCs are more inclusive. I don't think that they help the financial system. All of that rhetoric about our safety, your well-being, my well-being, all of this is so that you buy into the narrative. Because at the end of the day, what's extremely important to these institutions is that they remain in power at all costs. Anyways, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all tomorrow.